Um, let's see, what's this? Sennheiser. Sennheiser 650, 650. I guess I'm talking about Sennheisers today. As you can see, lot of Sennheisers, lot of Sennheisers. Oh man, so many Sennheisers. So let's start from the beginning. So we all love Sennheisers. I love HD 650s, 600s. So somebody was kind enough, and thank you, to send me a few different Sennheisers. And I have to say, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have like 5 Sennheisers here. And they all sound like kind of similar, but very different. And we'll go over the frequency response that I measured on my ears rig, just so we can kind of get an idea. It doesn't tell the whole story, the whole picture, but we'll get a better idea of what we're looking at. The first one is this very unique looking, and I'll switch to the camera so you can see, and let me clear off all the other Sennheisers for a second so we can get a sort of a better look at what's going on here. And these are the 580s, okay? So HD, it says HD600, but it's just in the HD600 headband, okay? So the reason why is that I had a newer HD600 headband that I put them on. They were shipped in a headband that was the headband was all stretched out, and so I put these on. But these are 580 precisions, and I think I even had here's the actual headband, so you can prove it. HD580 precision, and they don't usually look like this. This is also a 3D printed back that somebody did, that nice and decorated. It does have the rear, like this rear foam here, the rear foam plug on the center, but no rear foam on the whole back. And I don't know why that is, and I'm sorry for the jumping around of the focus. But yes, if you're yelling at me already, there is two different, or really there's like 3 different 580s. And there's more than that, depending on what kind of backing that it is, what kind of material. Now, this is black silk. They did make black paper, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to get one of these things out. So this right here, I'm going to take these off for a second so you can see better, because it's black. It's kind of hard to see in the light. All I'm going to do, actually I've got tape that taped on these headbands, because these 3D printed, these nice looking 3D printed backs were coming off. So I didn't want to lose them. So what I'm talking about is this material here. So this is like the baffle material. And Alex Grable, when he originally designed all of these headphones, when he designed the HD 580s, the 600s, the 650, back in the late 90s, they had paper. There was there was black paper. Then they switched to white paper. Apparently the white paper was more available than the black, and it looked the same. So they used that. And then there's also some white paper here. And then some people say that the black paper is better. It's also white. But this right here, the baffle, this is black silk. Later on, they switched to a more silvery type of backing. This one is silver. This is a Jupiter Audio Research, but you can see the silver baffle looks a lot different. They moved into later on productions, like sometime in the mid 2000s, I guess, or late 2000s. So a lot of people tend to like the black screen or black paper. Black paper, I think, has the more darker tone, and then it kind of gets brighter from there, like black silk, and then after that it's kind of in the middle, and then the black paper the silver, what they call the silver screen, is the kind of the brightest. And I will say it only really affects the range and like the 3 to 5K range. But anyway, just starting with what these things sound like. These things sound like to me that there's some missing bass. They have amazing clarity. They have amazing smoothness. They don't really sound they sound very smooth in the top end. Sometimes they did get slightly sibilant to me because I think it's also missing the rear foam. And so if you look at this, these are the two different 580s that were made. There's the 580 Precision that you see on the left. That's what this should look like without the fancy little, screen here. But so there's also like this rear foam that should kind of be on it, I guess, or maybe not. And then there's also the 580 Jubilee. Now, Massdrop created the 580 to be like the 580 Jubilee. They call it the 58X. I also had that headphone. I don't think it's anywhere close to this one. I think the similarities end in tonality, and that's about it. Though the 58X also sounded a little bit top end heavy, a little bit lighter in the low end. But I'm getting a lot more details out of the actual real 580s. And if you have a warm sounding chain, if you have tubes, if you have stuff, like it can probably, like if you had a bottlehead crack or something like that, something to kind of equal out the kind of like low end that's kind of missing on these, then I think that they could sound really, really fantastic. I have a more neutral chain that I would think it's slightly warm, but it's more on the neutral side. So let's just jump to the measurements, and that's how it kind of measured. So you can see here where there's a drop off in, and I'll switch to here so you can see my cursor. There's a drop off in the low end here, starting at around 100 hertz and just kind of going down. And then as you make your way through the lows, there's still a slight dip here. But then you have this rise at like 3 to 4K, this light little bump here. And I think that's what adds to the sort of clarity where things sort of like pop out, and just can sound very, very clean. I wouldn't call them like Grados, because Grados just sound completely different to me. These sounded a lot more enveloping and a lot more soundstage, a lot more immersive, a lot more sort of what would you call it? Soundstage. I didn't think that they were like flat. Like Grados to me always sounded like a very flat soundstage and not really sort of enveloping, just like a lot of details like all at once. Sorry, I'm gonna get some drink. All right, moving up the line are my own personal pair of HD600s. So, I mean, I've had these for a little while. I've probably had my 650s a little bit longer. I've had these for a couple of years. And when I had a pair of 650s, I didn't think I needed a pair of 600s. And after a friend of mine got a pair of 600s, I was like, okay, I've got to have a pair. If you're used to closed headphones and that sound, you're not going to be too far off with 600s. They are a little more flatter in the soundstage. To me, they sound like what really closed headphones should probably sound like. They don't have a lot of like booming low end, but they sound very natural. They sound very clear, and they have a lot of details. Now, mine are have been modded just a little bit. There's been weights that have been added on the front and on the back baffle, some Dynamat, but also some actual weights, and that has helped with some of the low end come through, sound a little bit warmer. The bass sound a little bit tighter, and I really, really enjoy 650s. Depending on what type of music that it is, if you want good headphones to put on like in the morning to get you going, very energetic, 600s will not put you to sleep. They are an enjoyable headphone, and they demand, your attention. And so if you want to look at, let's go back to the desktop here to see the frequency response. And I'll just put the HD600. So there's the HD600 on top of the 580. You see there's a little more lift like in the low end. And then it still kind of has this bump at 3 to 5. So that's what the 600s sound like. And I'd say that's a little bit accurate, a little more sensitive, and just a little, little bit more low end, but very close. And I think this is where they were trying to go, and where Alex was trying to go with the 580. Like, what can I improve on with the 600 and still have a little bit more low end, but still increase, some of the details or whatever. Not lose that detail, not have that there. These are black screen 600s. So we'll move on from there. 650s. Now I have two different pairs of 650s, okay? And they do sound different from each other, okay? They are both black screen 650s, but they are very different from each other in how they sound. Let's just go look at mine first. These are my old pair. Very, very old black screen 650s. And these are low serial number 650. I got these when I was first really getting into headphones. Somebody sold them to me or traded them on HadFi. And whoever did, thank you. These headphones I cannot get rid of. You can see the headband is very worn out. This is the same original headband. Even the grills, like the paint is chipping off the grills. I don't even know how many times the pads have been replaced, 3 or 4 times since I've had them. More headband wear up here. I've replaced these pads just a couple of times. These usually don't wear out as much as these pads, but yeah, overall a super enjoyable headphone. Very laid back, very warm, very enveloping, very wide and deep, and just with the right amplifier that can cut through the kind of like veil and haze, it just sounds amazing. And those amplifiers that can do that, I've held on to those, and the ones that haven't, those are the ones that I don't have anymore. The one that so I mean, some of them do really well, and some of them just don't really cut it. So the other ones that I have, the other 650s, are also black screen. But for whatever reason, these are these are a little bit newer. They look, sorry again for the weird focus of my stupid camera, but these are much prettier. for sure to look at. They don't have the wear and tear. They have nicer, even plushier, ear pads. And I think that like the difference between these two is that mine have a little bit more like low end darkness. Okay, low end darkness, and these are kind of the same, but they sound more like what I would expect out of a silver screen 650. Is they kind of have somewhat of a reduced low end and then like a little bit of a top end detail. So if I had like a warmer sounding setup, I'd probably want these. But if I had a darker sounding setup, I might not want these because they might be even too dark. I remember I paired these. I did have these with like a dark voice amp and a bottle head crack, and it was just like there's like too much low end. Certain albums and certain things I couldn't even listen to because it was just like so kind of dark and syrupy. So let's go to the frequency graph and let's just take a look. So I'm going to clear off these overlays, so if you don't mind. And there's mine. Look at that low end. I mean, there is and if you don't believe me, it's like, wait a second, that you boosted it, right? You boosted it. No, here's the HD600. They're about the same spot right here at 1K, okay? That is the difference between my HD650 in blue and my HD600. And yeah, you can see this low end is really kicking it. There's almost like a boost at 100, and then it just kind of flattens out all the way to the end. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Stellar. My friends think that I have like a unicorn 650. Like, not all 650s will be like this, that will measure like this. Something is going on with the low end that's allowing it to do this. I don't know what's actually happening. I've even tried to measure it with different pads, and this low end like still exists. It's not like it's just some weird anomaly, because it still has all of the same sort of stuff at the top. And look at the top end. Let me take away this look how it compares to the 650. I mean, the 600. It still has this top end air after 10K. Now, but if you look at the, like sort of the 7K range to the 10K range, you see how the 650 drops off, whereas the 600 kind of rises in that area. Okay? So that is another difference between the 600 and the 650. The 600, you will see it drop off. And let's just look at the other 650, one that belonged to my friend Charles. His kind of does the same thing as mine. There's a little lift here at like 9K. But otherwise, I mean, if you compare it to the 600, it's closer. But do note that his 650, the 600 in this this color, you can still see it's going down a little bit, and not as much air at the bottom. And then also, but his make sure I got the right overlay, because that's his. Okay. Yes. So if you look at the difference here between his 650 and my 650, you can still see, oh, this looks like the same. But maybe I measured it differently. But those are the two 650s. But you can see my blue line, see how much hotter it is up at the top end? There's almost like a boost of about 3 dB up at the top. And compared to, because here, We're all at 1K. We're at the same volume. So, but then it kind of splits around, the 3K area. Mine are a little hotter in 3K, is a little bit lower, but then it kind of like flip-flops. And then I get this, also mine have this little bit of air here at 10, where his like sort of drop off. Kind of weird. 650s from the same era. I mean, they were made years apart, but they both have black screens. One, is just a little different than the other. So we don't know really what the difference is, what's causing the differences. And we have some theories as to, why the differences between these two exist. One theory is actual production inconsistency. That off the factory line, both of these did sound different. Now, that could be for production inconsistencies, or it could be for what's called silent revisions, right? Some sort of update that we don't know about. Some sort of change in something. So we don't really know. The other thing that some people, that we have theorized of why the differences exist is just, overall wear and tear. I mean, obviously mine are worn in more. It could be driver, break-in. It could be just whatever. Just the foam on the back, deteriorating. I've never replaced this little foam, plug. I mean, is this little foam plug like kind of deteriorating? Because I know that other people have taken out that foam plug and then like they get tremendous amount of bass. So it could be that, just foam deterioration. We don't really know. All I know is I can put these on my head and I can hear a difference, and I can put them on a measurement system, just my ears rig, and I can hear a difference. So the question is, they are slightly different from each other. They are kind of related to one another. And which one would I choose? I love my 650s. I wouldn't trade them for anything. If I got rid of all my headphones in my rig, and they said you can only take one headphone with you to, the desert island, then it would be these. It would be my 650s. I love them. I love them so much. These are not bad. These are a good second. These are a great pair of 650s, and I think that they will be wonderful. And if it is a time thing where they break in, maybe they'll break in just like these. Maybe Charles doesn't even want that because he likes tubes. So it doesn't really matter. But a lot of people want to know more probably about the differences between these two guys rather than about two different 650s, right? So let's talk about that. 600s. This is an age-old question you see on forums like all of the time, and I might even edit this part of the video out as a separate video. It is that important. What you're going to get with 600 is that you're going to get a lot of details, a lot of clean details, a lot of what's called like plankton, what people like to call plankton, micro details, will come through more on the 600s than the 650s. So if you like that stuff, to hear the fingers of the guitar, to hear breaths, to hear, ghost notes on the snare and all these things going on and these reverb trails and all this stuff, like it's going to be more pronounced, especially that top end detail going to be more pronounced on the 600s. The trade-off is to the 650s. The 650s have a more of an enveloping, more relaxed sort of soundscape. So they do sound what people call as darker, but they still have, don't get me wrong, they still have a lot of details. They still have a lot of stuff, but like when the singer sings, it doesn't sound like just two speakers like connected to your head. It actually has this like, image in the middle that you don't really get with the 600s. You actually have this more broader soundscape where to me it sounds more like I'm listening to speakers in the room more than I'm listening to two speakers strapped to my head. Other people have that reaction. Other people do not. I do, because it sounds like more a cohesive unit rather than just like hearing all of the details in the recording. Like I said, these still have details. They still sound, really good and bring a lot of that stuff out. It's just not as pronounced as it is on the 600s. Okay. So, and if you have a, brighter chain, then these may not be the best. They are not what I would call warm. These are what I would call warm. These are, some people call like neutral. But yeah, they're definitely more to that vein. They don't sound as piercing as Grados, and if I was to listen to like classical music and pick between the two, I would pick 600 all day. I can't believe that. I don't know if Sennheiser has discontinued the 600, or maybe they're continuing with the newer look of them, but there is a reason why that these headphones were made or were designed in like the late 90s, in like 1998 or 1997. I don't remember exactly. And we are still talking about them today in 2022. And yes, they are still a darn good headphone today in 2022. And you can get them for really cheap. Just a wonderful, wonderful headphone. A lot of people, talk about scaling. Like, do they sound better? Like if you, like, and I look like I'm in a, I look like I'm, like in the dark or something like that. Let me increase some of the brightness here. Maybe you can start to see me now. But scaling, do you, can you really, hear a difference? Is this really, like a thing to, quote unquote scale? I'll say this about these 600s. It was the first real headphone that I had that I was like, okay, now I get audiophile headphones. I now understand why there is such a big hype around them. Because you try different headphones like below it and you're like, okay, these sound a little bit better. These sound a little bit better. I kind of get it. But these are like eye-opener headphones, and that's why they're like the entry level into like this whole world of like, oh my gosh, what else is out there? And a lot of people even come back to these and go, well, I've heard all these other things, and I really just come back to these. And a lot of people use these as daily drivers because they're not perfect, but they do so much so well that chasing after perfection is like almost like not worth it, because there are certain trade-offs with other headphones that you don't want to make when these just sound, more comfortable, or just still sound so great. So, and I think that there's room for both in your collection. I don't think that you have to choose between the two. I think that they're cheap enough that you can pick up one or the other. Now, let's talk about screens. Yes, there is a little difference in the screens between these 600 and the or the silver screen and the black screen. So if you're ever shopping around for some, I always prefer the black screen, okay, or black silk, because it just, to me, it sounds a little bit more smoother. The silver screen, to me, can be a little bit more bitey, especially in that like 3 to 5K range. And I've measured a couple. I don't have any measurements on the system, but I've measured like a pair of regular 600s to a silver screen 600s, and the frequency response looks almost identical, except for that 3 to 5K range, where the 3 to 5K range is pushed up a little bit. So to certain people with certain sensitivities, like in that area, especially like younger ears, I would think, my ears are, I have like more musician ears, so it's usually fine, but I'd still prefer like Black Silk. I initially refused to think that there was much of a difference between the two, but after hearing the two side by side, when somebody sent me a pair of Black Screen, and I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why this or the other. And so yeah, there you go. Because you can add, silver screen, you can do the trick where you like add weights and add dynamite and stuff like that, but you're still going to have that push like in that like 5K arena. So now we're going to move on. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these. Something new and different. And this is wild, y'all. This is wild. Yes, I live in Tennessee, so I'm going to say y'all. I don't say you guys, unless I'm talking about the Goonies. But here, Jupiter Audio Research, and we'll wait till the camera focuses, HD650. Now, you see here, these are silver screen. So you say, what are these? What is this JAR? What is this? And some people refer to these as JAR650s. And people on Super Best Audio Friends know exactly what I'm talking about. And there still may be some people that go, what are you talking about? So let me clarify. There was a gentleman in Korea who decided that he wanted to, well, he lived in the United States. He was going to college, and he wanted to modify 600s and 650s to make them a little bit better. He noticed that a lot of people were adding weights and adding dynamite, and he started doing his own experiments. And what he came up with was this design where he's replaced the whole entire back like baffle part basically with this heavy piece of material. Okay. So it no longer, so I'm going to pull out these newer, prettier 650s because it'll give you a better idea of what a 650 back of it's really supposed to look like. Is that you have, instead of this, like on the right, you have that. Okay. He still has this foam in the middle. But the vents, these vent holes right here, are kind of like covered up. And because of that, there is no reason for a back screen. So yeah, he just left it open and then, put his, just stamped out. And then in the front, you see the foam is cut out and you can see the front screen. You can actually see the screen. So normally you would just see like this. And this is a different type of mod where some people have cut out the foam like in the middle. That's what's called like a quarter mod, where you take a quarter and you cut it out. But this is more than a quarter. This is like a silver dollar size. It's almost the whole driver, basically. And then you just have the foam around it. So you say, okay, with all those mods, what are you getting out of it? What are you getting out of it? What is the purpose of all this? Because it does add some weight. It does feel like asphalt or something, like on your, as far as the material and like what's on your head. So essentially, let's go back to our Arta here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the new, like 650 versus the JAR650. So not a whole lot of difference. Not a whole lot of difference in the low end. Where you see the difference is in the top end. You see more of this top end air, but the low end is almost the same. So that is where, and then you also see this little dip here around like 2K. So that is where some of this stuff, like, sort of comes from. And I will say they do reflect this. They do, like, sound more, pushed in that upper end. And, I don't know if it's part of it, the silver screen, or part of it, or this or that or the other. But I will say that even with the baffle, the bass is tighter, more controlled. They sound less bassy than the newer 600s, or excuse me, 650s. But they also have this tremendous, like, clarity and control in the high end, where there's a little bit more details. And to me, they sound more of a in-between of the 600 and the 650, because I think that they do sacrifice that little more enveloping sound for a little bit more detailed sound, but they still sound a little more balanced to me, where they have a little bit more like low end going on. So because if we go back to the desktop and look at the JAR650 versus the HD600, you can still see that they're almost, the top end looks almost the same, except for the 600s are more like rolled off. Okay. So, and then somebody, then I started thinking, when I first saw like all of this air at the top, I was just like, I wonder how mine look. Oh, my air looks kind of the same. My 650s look a little bit, but I'm not quite all the way there. And then my low end is still like peaking up above like a couple of dB up here at the top. I need more drink. Pardon me. So, and then there's still this mid dip at 2K, which I don't really have down here. So, and then when I'm talking about like the pushed in the like the 3K because of black screen, I think we're talking about in this like sort of area, because yeah, you can kind of see where the jars, what you see on the screen, and then when you add in mine and that 4 to 5K area, that's a little bit of the black screen thing. It's just like a couple dB, like I said, very, very subtle. So, and I think that was an attempt, and now I'm going to just go out on a limb and just go ahead and just kind of go back to the screen, issue, the whole black screen, silver screen, is that there was always a lot of talk of this Sennheiser veil, and I think that the silver screen was an attempt to try to get rid of it. But to me, I just think it made them sound more grainy in that area, if you want my honest opinion. But the JAR650, is it a good headphone? I mean, what you have to do is basically, what he was initially doing is you would have to send him 650s, then mod them, and then send them back, which was, anytime that happens is like, you're spending like more money. You're spending almost 20 or like 200% more than you would spend, right? Because you got to buy the headphone and then you got to buy the mod, which the mod is almost the same price as like the headphone, which is worth it. I mean, this is some cool tech here, and some cool research to make them sound like this. And he also does 600s, and the 600s sound even more like, I don't know, crazier, because it's like they have detail, and then it's like they even bring out more detail because I think the baffle and the weight and everything, it's kind of like when you add braces and add mass to like the back of the like a driver, like in a speaker. It's the same sort of thing. Instead of in this plastic housing, you're putting it in a more secure like place, and you can allow the driver to really just do what it does best and sound its best. And I think that's also what's going on here with the JAR650. But I think that there's a little bit more sacrifices, but I think they, like I said, they sound more like an in between a 600 and a 650 because they have that detail, but they still have some warmth. So that sort of thing. The 600s to me, the regular, and I'll go back to here. The main sort of like 600s to me, like sort of sound, great as well. They have their own place. So let's get to the finality, the ranking of where you would rank these. 580 precision. I'm gonna have to go like the least, lowest. Sorry. I want more low end. I'm kind of impressed with it. A lot of people think that the 580s are really fantastic, and the prices of these have like just gone up, I think, because of the allure of the 5.8x and then like trying to find real like 580s or whatever. And if you find them, that's great, but just know that, to me, they do not have the warmth that I thought. I was told that they sound more like in between 600 and 650, but this particular pair just does not have the low end for me. So we're going to go with that. The next ones I'm going to pick are Charles's 650s, okay? If I had to pick, because these are all the rest of them are all almost equal. And the only reason why is because that I think that they're too close to mine, like in sound. But once again, it's just like there wasn't that much more to offer than what I already have. So it's like, okay. I mean, I already have my own. So that's number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go with the HD600s because I think they have a place. I think that they sound great. I think that I know what they sound like whenever I evaluate amps, whenever I evaluate a deck, whenever I evaluate anything. These are almost my go-to because they are a great reference. A lot of people have them. A lot of people know what they sound like. And they give me the, I can hear all the essence like that I need to hear out of them. I've even taken mine and I took a paint pen, and you can see, and like I added a R and a L, so you could better see them in low light. And I love it because I made my own like little slight modification to them besides just like the weights in here that gave it some more weight, just like the where they're going with the jar, where they're adding a little bit more in mass to the baffle. And there's some Dynamat mods that are out there, for Sennheisers to do very similar things. I just think that the jars do it on a very extreme level. So that brings me to my next point of the JAR650. These are probably my next ones in line because I think that these do something that I haven't heard Sennheisers do in like a while, which is just like give me some sparkly cleans and not a whole lot of like sibilance or harshness. Still would like to have more low end, but if you accept them as just like they're kind of like enhanced 600s, then I'll go with that. Then lastly, my beloved 650s. I feel like Charlton Heston, right? Like, for my golden hands. And you can see here, I've also done the paint thing where I got the R and the left on these as well. If you notice, somebody said these also, like, if you ever try to find them in the dark, or like say it's so dark you can't tell, the 600s have a little dots right here, so you can feel with your finger. Like, so if you grab them and you just feel like, okay, this is the left side. The 600s, let's see, they usually, the newer ones, oh, where is the newer? The newer ones put the little dot on the front. I don't know if I can see with the shadow. There you go. So there's little dots in the front. This is the left side. So if you grab them and you go, you feel, okay, that's the left side. So you don't even have to look. And somebody taught me that, and now I don't have to look anymore, because actually I usually keep my 600s in this newer like HD600 headband. And I can feel for that every time. I just use my fingers, feel for the little thing. I don't even have to look at which is right, which one's left. And if you have 600s, you can use that as well. Like, just, that's what those little 3 dots are for. They're not on the right side. They're only on the left side. And for whatever reason, HD 600s don't have this. They're smooth on both sides. And there's no, oh, actually, no, these do have dots. You can, I don't know if you can see them in the light. Let me see if I can turn it. Yeah, there they are. They have dots right here as well. So yeah, so if you feel that, there's the dots on the side for the newer headbands. They're on the front on this side, but if that side and this side. So yeah, you can always know what's going on. And that almost does it. The last thing that I wanted to bring up about all of these is that if you do own a pair of Sennheisers, be prepared to change the headbands, or not the headband, but the ear pads about every year to 2 years. They will get more like low end and like close to your head and not feel as comfortable. And they might bother you, like your ears touching the foam on the inside or something like that. So, and that's about the time to tell you that, hey, you need, new air pads. I told a friend of mine, I said, just put it on your Santa list, to put them in your stocking every year. He calls it the Sennheiser tax, what you have to pay for those. I don't think that you can go wrong with any of these headphones, and there are some other variants that are out there as far as like where they were made, like Ireland or like whatever. I haven't really, the silver screen ones all to me sound about the same no matter where they are. The other thing I want to get to is the HD6XX or whatever, the 650 copies. Those were made in Ireland. They're basically silver screen 650s. So there you go. The other thing I want to address is the driver. Like, the drivers are about the same. The baffles are about the same. They're about the same. You cannot take, well, you can. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. I can tell you that I have put a 650 driver into a 650 baffle, and it does not make it a 650. It makes it some weird hybrid that doesn't sound very good. I like to keep the drivers in what's intended for them. They do sound the best. It just sounded too weird. And the same thing, I took a 650 driver and put it into a 600 housing. Just not good either. Neither one of them did very well. So I don't know. There is some science behind like the foam and screen and like the stuff that makes it go. I don't know the science behind it. Like I said, all I know is I can put it on my ears and I can, tell a difference, and then I can put it on the measurement, and then we can kind of measure some of the differences. Because those 2 or 3 dB, like in those areas, like they do matter. They do, they do make a difference. Just like, most mastering engineers, when they are mastering, they're only increasing like by a few dB, and that can make a huge difference whether recording sounds like bright or dark or mid-centric or whatever. But I like all of these headphones. My biggest complaint about most headphones is as long as they don't sound mid-centric. None of these sound mid-centric. They all sound very lively. I can listen to a variety of different music on it, from jazz to rock and roll. I think that everybody should at least own a pair of Sennheisers. They're kind of like the, SM57 or something like that of the world or SM58, because they're not perfect, but they do so many things well. It's the reason why you see them everywhere. And a lot of people call them like mid-fi, and I think that they, partially that is true, if you want to call it that, but you have to remember where this sort of hobby came from and how it kind of grew into its sort of like hi-fi roots. And these were the top of the line, like the HD600 and the HD650 were the top of the line headphones like in 2000, 2002, until they came out with the HD, 800. So from, those were the top, that was the best headphone that Sennheiser made at that time period. So we've only come, yes, we've come like 20 years, but yet we're still, like I said, we're still talking about these headphones and how wonderful and how great they are. It's kind of like when you head out of the ballpark, you still talk about that, those things, and they're still wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I can't say the same thing about some of the headphones that were made back in 1998. There are only a few that I can even think of that are still around from then. So it is a benchmark headphone. Things get like really, really better from here, but there's a whole lot worse from down there, and that's why it's hard to come up with something that is like a SM57. I can't really say like a SM57 or SM58, because there's not a whole lot that are worse than an SM58, but there's a whole lot that's like better. But I mean, it depends on your application. But if I was in a studio, that's not the first thing that I would grab. But I would grab any of these like any day of the week, and they're my, I love them. So I want to give a shout out to Charles. You know who you are. Erroneous. He's the one that lent me these headphones and sent them around for me to check out. And it's truly a pleasure and awesome that I got the chance to hear all of these, because normally you have to buy stuff and then, listen to it. And I was able to have these like for a week and be able to really like back and forth and put them on and listen to the same song like 5 times on the same, amp without changing the volume. And so, yeah, it was a fun experience for me to be able to do that and to be able to compare. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it and enjoy me talking about 650s. I mean, I'm not the expert on all this and the historian behind it all. You could read a lot about Alex Grable. You could read a lot about the development of these 600s. If I find some links, I will post it in the description. If you have more to say about 650s or 600s or want to share your experiences, please hit me up in the comments. And if I was wrong about anything, please let me know and let our viewers know, so that we can all like learn something, and I can even learn from my mistakes. So enjoy it, everybody. Like and subscribe. We're going to have some more reviews of some more equipment later on. And yes, I like my Rode NT1. So I've got it in. It is here. We're going to be doing some mods to it later. So we'll talk to you guys later. I'm Stereo Asmuth. Have a great day.